we all heard the story in December that Rockstar had fired a number of developers, and the story's been conflicted and gone back and forth a ton of times because the initial story was, of course, Rockstar fires devs. They say for gross misconduct, specifically that they were leaking stuff in a private Discord server. The next update was that those same devs came out and said, actually, we were fired because we were working on forming a union. Oops, that's not great. It sounds like union busting. Now there's another update where Rockstar is coming out even further and is clarifying what they claim is going on. Okay, so Rockstar stated that the GTA 6 employees, or Rockstar employees, were fired in 2023 and 2025 after leaking confidential information to third parties who were reportedly influencers. Gross. Rockstar, the developer of GTA 6, is under investigation for alleged union busting. However, the company firmly denies these claims, stating that the recent firing of 34 employees was due to leaking of features. This situation has prompted the community to speculate about the nature of those leaks. So naturally, people are like, oh, they were leaking features? What leaks were going out around this time? Where are those leaks? Wait just a second, Kiss. Wait just a second. I'm going to show you. And I'm going to give you a spoiler warning in case these end up being real, just so you can choose whether or not you want to listen. I think that it's possible these are totally made up, but you'll see what I mean. A Rockstar spokesperson has shared several additional details about the recent firings in a statement with IGN, remaining firm that leaking was the only reason for the decision. The only. I mean, I'm sure they're not going to tell you. The fact they were forming a union also was a happy accident. Okay, they're not going to say that. I personally suspect that this was one of those things where, like, maybe they were looking closely at these conversations on the Discord server because they heard rumblings about forming a union, so they started looking at it close, and then they happened to discover that they were mentioning and discussing some sensitive topics like game features and stuff, which is against policy, and there was their excuse to fire them. So I'm guessing it was like a happy accident, but we'll see. The statement comes in response to the IWGB's claims, which state that Rockstar broke the law when it fired these employees and who were organizing for better conditions. The GTA 6 developers state that they took action against employees from the UK and Canada for sharing quote unquote highly confidential information, including revealing game features from upcoming and unannounced titles in an quote insecure and public social channel, end quote. This action was considered a quote breach of long-standing and well-understood confidentiality policies. Rockstar adds that the channel that these employees were using consisted of 25 non-Rockstar employees, including devs from competitor teams, a video game journalist, and other unidentified members. Employees who posted union supportive messages and didn't breach their policies weren't fired. Ooh, if they can show that they have the Discord chats and there's employees who discussed union stuff and weren't fired, that goes a long way for Rockstar, because that would suggest that it really was just about the leaks. Interesting. Was it me? No. It was revealed that a Rockstar employee in Lincoln, UK was fired in April 2025 for sharing information with a third party who then posted it to social media. Additionally, an employee was fired in November of 2023 in the US and in November 2025 in India for 2 more acts of leaking GTA 6 information. And it's just a repost of Ben's post on that. GTA 6 community speculates leaks from 2023 and game roll could be true. So as you can see, after this was revealed, people went back through and tried to find the various posts of what these leaks could be to see if they were true or possibly real. And there's a number of these, okay? So one of these groupings of leaks is related to the plot, and like a couple of them are related to mechanics. At this point, I'm just going to warn you, these might be real. They also probably are not, but it's possible. What they're doing is they're going back in time and looking for leaks, quote unquote, that dropped around the time of these employees being fired. So it's assuming that, for one, the fired employees ever existed, 1. 2, it's assuming that the leak that they found from that time period was real and was from that employee and was not just somebody unrelated or coincidentally leaking something fake at that time. So there's a lot of assumptions being made in here, okay? An interesting detail. In the recent IGN article about Rockstar dismissing employees for leaked information is that one of them was fired back in November of 23. Just a month before that happened, so a full month, possibly from the same person that was fired, maybe not. Someone made a post here claiming to know plot details. It has a pretty good chance of being real, considering the post includes the earliest mention of Jason picking up Lucia from prison. And the reason that's important, you can see this, the account's been deleted. There's all of these tidbits here, which they repost right here. But the reason why that's important, of course, is because if you remember, I believe it's in trailer 2. Was it right? Yeah. What is this? It's a segment where they show Lucia getting picked up from prison. And so this post, even though this trailer drops in May of 2025, this post originating from November of 2023 mentions that happening in the game. Now, what did they mention specifically? Well, let's see. Again, spoiler warning about something that probably is fake, but might be real. I was surprised by my source when I was told that Lucia has a baby that she abandons at a delicatessen before heading out on a bank robbery and then getting arrested for doing such an act. It is not known if the baby was a boy or a girl, and obviously there will be no kids in the game. This only happens in a cutscene as a flashback of the past. I have no information about what happens to the baby after this point. Historically, Rockstar doesn't really mess with kids in games, at least in gameplay sequences, for obvious reasons, but there are plenty of examples of children being depicted in Rockstar games, whether you look at Red Dead 1, even of course Red Dead 2 with children that are depicted, which I guess is sort of like Red Dead 1, but you go to me. And then in GTA 5, of course, you have Michael's children. I think they're both over, I don't actually know how old they are. I don't actually know how old they are in GTA 5. How old are his kids? And then Bully is the obvious example, but Bully comes from another time. You know, and if you've played Bully, you know what I mean. There's stuff they do in there where it's like, I cannot fathom that being depicted in a game nowadays. 30, are they both like fully grown adults? Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Anyway, continuing. After a few years, Lucia gets released on probation. She's picked up at the prison by Jason, who's planning a robbery with her, and they'll fall in love with each other after some time. The reason why this is important is because, again, when this was originally posted, this was not publicly known. She's picked up by prison. This was posted again in October 17th, 2023. So a little under 2 years after, a year and a half, 2 years after, the trailer would confirm that happening, right? That's why that's important. The majority of, now, to be fair, trailer 1. When did trailer 1 drop? December 2023. This leak comes from October 2023. And so with that, I mean, you can't even say that, like, because in this one, I think there's the shot of her in prison, right? So you can't even say that there's like a connection or a guess, because this wasn't even out yet when the leak happened. So maybe it's a lucky guess, but it does. I mean, that is significant. The majority of the planning for missions takes place at a nightclub called The Vault. Got to get you back to the nightclub. In the very first mission of the game, you control Jason and have to follow a plane that is about to land and carries a Russian drug dealer. Apparently, Jason meets this guy and starts to plan a mission to steal drugs. In this drug stealing mission, they are chased by police and the drug ends up falling into the ocean. There is a following mission where they have to dive to retrieve it. This is also something we've seen. You remember the shots from trailer, I think it was also trailer 2, where they show like loading up the plane right here. Yeah. Is this from that mission that he's mentioning? Is that what they're doing? Is this from like the first few minutes of the game when you're loading up the plane with stuff? Maybe. It's quite possible. Continuing on, mechanics. There's a new mechanic for detecting threats and valuable items around you. This is not a special ability like Franklin's ability to drive cars with special handling. This is a new mechanic that seems to be somewhat inspired by the Deadeye targeting from Red Dead 2. This mechanic is revealed in the Hank's Waffles dining robbery present in the leaked videos. The leaked videos, again, there were many of them, from the autistic kid that hacked in with a Fire TV stick, which sounds like an exaggeration or a simplification, but no, like he literally hacked into Rockstar with a Fire TV stick and a TV. Rockstar has also been focusing on very detailed mechanics of searching places. This one also seems to be inspired by a mechanic from Red Dead 2. That's all I can reveal to you guys for now. Again, please come back to this thread when the game gets released and after Rockstar releases a teaser trailer, as it will probably include some of the information I said here. And apparently Apparently, this guy was fired when they discovered this information. Now, here's something interesting that happens, and this is something I want to mention with all of this. So, it's possible that this is just a collection of information and guesses from this period when they allege somebody was fired. It's also possible that this person posted something very small and innocuous to a 4chan that we haven't been able to track. So we don't know if this is the post connected to the person that was fired. It could be, but we don't know. Okay. It's a big question mark. That's kind of a guess or an assumption. Number two is assuming that the information contained therein is accurate, which is also a dangerous, iffy assumption to make, because Rockstar, as with many other companies, has a track record and a strategy to catch leakers where they disseminate slightly different bits of information to like contractors or secondary employees, and then they can catch who's leaking information based on what they share. So for example, there was a case of a multiplayer game that had specific numbers associated with it. It was like, you know, how many players are in a match or how many players total in a list of like the leaderboard and things like that. There's specific numbers. And what they would do with the company behind this game that will remain unnamed is they will share with different teams different bits of information. So maybe they tell people over here working on network code or something. They tell them, yeah, it's going to match make 4 teams of 4 for 16 total players. And then they go over here and they tell this team it's 5 teams of 4. And then they tell this team over here that's doing contract work for artwork, they say, oh, it's actually 6 teams of 4. So if any one of those people leaks and says on Reddit or something, yeah, so it's actually 5 teams of 4. Boom. We know what team it came from. It came from this team. And so they can immediately track it. There's other stories, for example, where like Elon was having people leak information. I think it was out of Tesla. And the way that they caught them was they would have a sentence. Let's just copy this. What we'll do is like paste this text. Okay, so this is the one from here. And if you have somebody that's like leaking something, what they would do is they put an extra space, or they would change the size of the period, or they'd bold it or something in Microsoft, you know, Word or whatever. And so they would do little stuff like this. And what this basically does is it creates a binary signature. And so if this ends up getting copied, was it Doge? Oh, okay. If this gets copy and pasted, now when it's pasted, I can go back through and identify where the double spaces are, or where I change the formatted size of the comma or of the period or whatever. And I can go back through and figure out who initially posted this based on who was sent this version of the text, right? There's all sorts of stuff that they do with this. So it's possible that bits of this are true. It's also possible that maybe the vault is something they only told to one team. For everybody else, it was called the cellar or something, right? And so then they can go back through and figure out who leaked it based on the specifics of what's been shared here, which seemingly is what happened, because they say they fired somebody around this time. So even if this is an accurate leak of somebody that worked on the game, it does not mean that the information, all the information contained therein, is true. I want to be clear about that. A leak can be real and also factually incorrect, which is brain melting, but that's just how this works, okay? So, I think my guess is hearing that there's a baby is surprising. I don't know if I totally buy that. It's not impossible. It certainly raises the stakes where she's like trying to make money to get her kid back or something. I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff you could do with that. There's also the prison thing is something verified in the trailer that launched like 2 years after this leak. That to me is pretty like damn clear. This leak happened, and then they show him picking her up from prison as described in the leak. Like that's a pretty clear-cut example of getting something right. Could be just a lucky guess or an informed guess, but still, it would be pretty wild if that's just a coincidence. This one, we see pictures and video of the plane, which I think very well could be this segment. Mechanics, these things have been leaked and discussed for a long time because of the leaks that were already confirmed, so I find those less remarkable. Easy guesses if you just go through those leaks from a couple of years or a few years ago. But overall, interesting little tidbits. Okay, but what we do know is that we're close. The game is in the home stretch. It's coming. I think the odds are still like 75% chance that it launches in November. It's possible it gets delayed into early next year. I would say it's probably unlikely, but it's certainly possible, and it's just a matter of time before we see for ourselves. So there you go. Question is, will it be 100? My lock-in again is that I think it launches at $80. I think that's the new AAA whatever price that they're going to charge. I think it launches at $80 as the base price, and then I think it goes and they will do, again, I think it's $80 base price for the base version, and then I think there will be a $120 version. That's the deluxe. Okay. And the deluxe comes with like 5-day early access. So you can wait to play it on the launch day, or you can pay extra and play it early. The based version. What are you, a brokey? Yeah, I think that's what they're going to do. Because then they can get away with basically charging $120 because let's be real, tons of people are going to go and buy this because they don't want to miss out. It's going to be like the big cultural moment, and I think a lot of people are going to do that. This has been my prediction for like a year and a half, is that this is what they're going to do. It's possible they also still stick it at 70. They're going to do all sorts of market analysis to see how many people are we going to lose by going to 80 versus 70. Maybe it's nobody, maybe it's a lot, but they'll do lots of testing. But I think the big point is that they'll do early access with this. They've announced the release date, but if the release date is, what is it, the 19th of November, I think? It's the 19th. They could just do early access. You get it on the 14th. You know, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. That's my guess. And then I think they'll have a collector's edition for $350 or whatever, and it's going to be ridiculously expensive, which kind of goes without saying, but that's my guess, is that they'll have it priced at a lower, like, I don't think they're going to do base price at 100. I think they'll have it priced at like standard AAA basically, but then they will have early access that's way more expensive, and that's how they're going to extract the extra cash from people. That's my guess. It's my guess. I hope they surprise me. They might surprise me and end up coming in. Some people were guessing, they're like, what if they come out and just do $60? Like, that would be just slap upside the head of Nintendo for trying to push for 80 for Mario Kart. But I think they can get away with 80, which is why I think they're going to do it. Because I think they also think they can get away with 80. And so they're going to go for it. That's my guess. He took my thing.